Hello, my name is Raul Hernandez, and for my book report, I chose The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. It's a book based on Greek mythology. Uh, I kind of didn't know where to start for my books exactly, so I kind of just looked some stuff up online and found something and found this book, which seemed interesting. Uh, Mythology always seemed interesting, and I saw positive reviews about this, so I ended up choosing this. Um, for me, the most important part in the book, or my favorite part, was pages 166 to 168. It goes as follows. Odysseus did not try to answer, only turned to Achilles. Ask her, he said. Ask your mother what she knows. Achilles swallowed. Loud in the silent chamber, he met his mother's black eyes. Is it true, what he says? The last of her fire was gone. Only marble remained. It is true, but there is more, and worse that he has not said. The words came tonelessly, as a statue would speak them. If you go to Troy, you will never return. You will die a young man there. Achilles' face went pale. It is certain? This is what all mortals ask first. In disbelief, shock, fear, is there no exception for me? It is certain. If he had looked at me then, I would have broken. I would have begun to weep and never stopped. But his eyes were fixed on his mother. What should I do? He whispered. The slightest tremor over the still water of her face. Do not ask me to choose, she said, and vanished. I cannot remember what we said to the two men, how we left them, or how we came to our room. I remember his face, skin drawn tightly over his cheeks, the dull pallor of his brow. His shoulders, usually so straight and fine, seemed fallen. Grief swelled inside me, choking me. His death. I felt as if I was dying just to think of it, plummeting through a blind, black sky. You must not go. I almost said it 1,000 times. Instead, I held his hand fast between mine. They were cold and very still. I do not think I could bear it, he said. At last, his eyes were closed as if against horrors. I knew he spoke not of his death, but of the nightmare Odysseus had spun, the loss of his brilliance, the withering of his grace. I had seen the joy he took in his own skill, the roaring vitality that was always just beneath the surface. Who was he if not miraculous and radiant? Who was he if not desired for fame? Or I would not care, I said. The words scrabbled from my mouth. Whatever you became, it would not matter to me. We would be together. He knew, but it was not enough. The sorrow was so large it threatened to tear through my skin. When he died, all things swift and beautiful and bright would be buried with him. I opened my mouth, but it was too late. I will go, he said. I will go to Troy. The rosy gleam of his lips, the fevered green of his eyes. There was not a line anywhere on his face, nothing creased or grained. All crisp, he will spring, golden and bright. Envious, death would drink his blood and grow young again. He was watching me, his eyes as deep as earth. Will you come with me? He asked. The never-ending ache of love and sorrow. Perhaps in some other life I could have refused, could have torn my hair and screamed and made him face his choice alone. But not in this one. He would sail to Troy, and I would follow, even into death. Yes, I whispered yes. Relief broke in his face, and he reached for me. I let him hold me, let him press us length to length, so close that nothing might fit between us. Tears came and fell. Above us, the constellation spun, and the moon placed her wary course. We lay stricken and sleepless as the hours passed. Overall, I do not I did not have much knowledge of Greek mythology before this, and from what I've read from reviews and from what I've seen from this book itself, it seems as if a twist on the usual Iliad and Odysseus, which was the main inspiration for this book. and it kind of portrays Patroclus and Achilles as more than just friends as it is approached in the original books, but in doing so, it creates this emotional bond between them, and it is just built up throughout the entire story from the beginning, from when they were just kids to their eventual going into Troy. It thus leads to the events of the sack of Troy, and overall I start to see some main this the main sort of the main points of this story. As for the Greeks back then, everything was about honor and glory and their legend that would never fade. And to Achilles, this especially was even more important, as he was supposed to be the greatest of Greeks, and the only way he would ever become this was to partake in the sack of Troy, which was prophesied to be his undoing, as said in the passage. So he had to choose between going to Troy and having his fame live throughout the land, or staying and living, but yet his brilliance would disappear. And that would be something that he could not let happen. And towards the end of the book, you do see this appear again. You see that the glory that he achieved in Troy, did indeed last for centuries to come. However, it did end up killing both him and Patroclus, leading to their eventual demise together, leading to a very saddening ending towards leading to a very saddening ending by the end of the book once the sack of Troy has just begun.